Two, one, zero.
Episode number 456 of the EP Water Cooler. Gutenberg, more than WordPress.
I thought that was a guillotine.
I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at jasontucker.blog.
Oh, hey, I'm Say Reed. I do stuff, make WordPress, teach WordPress, preach WordPress at Say Reed Media and all the things.
And y'all know who it is. It's your boy Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, back at it again on the world's most influential WordPress podcast.
Speaking of that podcast, go and find us wherever it is that you listen to amazing podcasts. And you can come hang out with us amazing people over on our Discord. Links in the description below.
Is that just in case they're already not listening as a podcast? You're like, subscribe, right?
Well,
just like and subscribe.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're listening somewhere or watching.
Well, they're watching.
Watching? Are you watching?
They're like, wait, this is a podcast too? Oh.
Wait, what's happening?
So cool. I could totally just listen to this instead of watching these people. That's awesome.
You know, you'd miss out on a lot. I gotta say, there's a lot of expressions and stuff. In fact, I have something I want you to pull up on the screen for today's topic, but we'll get to it. Who wants to talk about today's topic? Because I have a song to sing about it.
Oh, a song, please. Kick us off. Kick us off.
I don't want to do too much because, you know, copyright infringements and stuff. I'm just gonna go more.
It's fair use. It's
WordPress. That's all I wanted to do. That's it. Awesome. Just in case the Milli Vanilli references were not picked up. I just really wanted that to be. I wanted to be sure that we all understood. Because I think the Milli Vanilli reference is actually very relevant to, it's not just a clever title. It's actually deeper than that. That's what I think.
To the olds.
No, I mean, only insofar as that we know what happened. Like, yeah. So for those who are younger, are those people listening to the show? I don't know. But if anyone doesn't know, Milli Vanilli was a R&B, I think, R&B act, musical act in the 80s, 90s, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. For all us millennial children. And they were lip syncers, and they were exposed for lip syncing and not basically being a front band, like a band that wasn't really a band.
AI that just does all of it in one shot instead of having to just fake another thing.
It was just one of the first exposés, and one of the, I think maybe, you know, before, like, if someone was like being dubbed or like this was different because, you know, there's that whole like Ashley Simpson thing where she like lip synced on SNL.
Right.
Suddenly this is a pop culture show, but I swear there's a reference here. So like that was a big deal, but that was somebody who would also sing, who was doing lip syncing like people do at concerts or whatever with backing tracks. But Milli Vanilli, just to refresh everyone's memory about this really important time in our lives, they actually didn't sing at all. They just pretended. They were just the pretty face.
I think it wouldn't have been an issue had auto-tune been a thing back then, because they would have just auto-tuned their vocals. They would have been just fine. Yeah. Right.
So it's like, you know, this is this one kind of moment in time where like the curtain kind of fell back because like they were trying to like really push this act, you know, that was like not really the act, and everyone was in on it. And I just think that it's interesting. I'm not going to go too far into the analysis, but, you know, if you're, you know, having some time later and you just want to think about how that could be relevant to WordPress and our discussions in general, you know, I invite you to think about that. You know what? I invite you to think about it deeply, in fact. That's all.
With that said, let's get into the guillotine that you were just talking about earlier in the intro. So,
oh my god, it totally looks like a guillotine.
That is the Gutenberg press. And
he had a picture of the Gutenberg press on the intro for those of you who are listening as a podcast.
Literally used thousands of times over in talking about Gutenberg. You know, so yeah, there was that. So yeah, you know,
I really thought it was a guillotine. I was like, look, we don't need that imagery. We're not coming for anybody yet.
So what's interesting about doing a show like this is that we, you know, 2 weeks ago we came up with this topic, and now I'm trying to like go through text messages to figure out like, why did we want to talk about this?
No. I actually
you have a thread.
I remember too. Don't worry. We remember. We got you. It's been a
I
big
stuck
time
something
for
in
Tucker.
the
I just want to
private
wait, hold on.
chat.
I want to just say it's been a big time for Tucker. His youngest daughter graduated from high school.
Yeah.
So that's a big monument, not
The
monument,
last one.
milestone in a parent's life, in a person's life when their child graduates high school. So I just want to, take a moment of silence for Jason for that. And then
she hasn't moved out yet.
Yeah, right. Your empty nest will soon be here. What that means to me, though, I want everyone to know is that Tucker will have more time for our projects.
Oh
Dun,
gosh.
dun, 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 dun. So that's all I have to say about that. But also, congratulations, Jesselyn Tucker.
So let's
sorry.
Let's jump in. So you have a link. What are we looking at here?
Yeah. So Dries did his State of Drupal presentation not too long ago. Just
Dries
earlier.
How do you say
Dries
his last name exactly?
I am not even going to make an attempt. That's cool.
Okay.
Dries is awesome. Let's go.
So Dries
who is
has been
Dries?
Dries is effectively, for the WordPressers in the house, the Matt Mullenweg of Drupal. He is the main driving force.
The main Droop.
Yeah. Droop John B.
Just the name is Droop John B. That's amazing.
So, yeah, in this presentation that he did, he talked about, and Tucker, you may have to scroll down a little bit to get to it, but he talked about how Drupal it's way down there, Tucker.
I'm waiting for you to say a word that I could find.
No, I mean, you'll see bonus announcement and unexpected funding. You found it. You have to scroll back up just a tiny bit. So automatic, there was a proposal.
Did you just really want this proof there? You're like, look, I am not making this. So this is here. I just want you to see it yourself. So for everyone who's listening as a podcast, as we keep inviting you to do, we are looking at a post on a website that talks about an update from, was it DrupalCon? Yeah.
I think it was, but in Dries' State of Drupal presentation, just like the State of the Word, Dries was sharing, there was a proposal inside the Drupal community to basically improve the Gutenberg experience inside of Drupal. There are people who have started to use Gutenberg outside of WordPress and in Drupal to build sites as a site builder for Drupal, and kind of have this sort of cross-platform compatibility. But Matt had apparently gotten word that this was a proposal and that they were asking for 20,000 euros in funding, and ended up like basically saying like, oh yeah, Automatic will pay for that, and no cost to the Drupal community, no anything else. Like we'll even send some people who are like very familiar with Gutenberg and the implementation to like help y'all out to basically make Gutenberg a sort of like also a main experience for Drupal users. So it's kind of interesting how we are at a place in WordPress and now the Gutenberg project of other platforms, especially one of the other competitors. I know that Drupal's market share on sites around the internet is much smaller than WordPress's, but Drupal really is like, for the folks who don't choose WordPress and do stick with like an open source CMS, Drupal is the thing that folks tend to lean on. So I just kind of think it's interesting that we're getting to this like Gutenberging of the open web.
I mean, this is what Matt has been talking about. And, it's funny because even though in the State of the Word, Matt has actually said this multiple times and in multiple places that he expects and he thinks, hey, maybe it could be possible that Gutenberg might be bigger than WordPress someday. Like he said that, right? So this is not a surprise from that angle. And I think that this definitely is, obviously in alignment with that vision. My question then becomes, well, first of all, I think we have always said, right, that WordPress would be inside Jetpack, but I think now it's WordPress is going to be inside Gutenberg. We didn't know about Gutenberg yet, so we should just switch our things. But this is aligned with that vision, and Gutenberg's repo right now is still under WordPress's repo on GitHub. I just checked like last week. So it is still actively being developed from the WordPress community. There have been some projects that have been developed and are still being developed inside the WordPress community and the WordPress Make WP umbrella that have been taken away from that structure. Specifically Openverse, which is now kind of doing its own thing. It's got its own site. It's still it still has a make channel, but it has definitely sort of differentiated itself. Not necessarily, I mean, just having a separate website doesn't necessarily mean that, but just something that I think is interesting and worth noting because, in open source, you can fork stuff. And I just think that when you get right down to it, like there's an open ticket right now on the Make marketing channel called What is WordPress? And it's been open since like April or something. And, obviously we're talking, that ticket is really speaking about from a marketing sense, right? Like what's the tagline? Like, what do you say to people? But if you start to think about it more, let's say existentially, right? What is WordPress? Then is it like, is WordPress the block editor? Is it becoming the block editor? That's what's happening, right? To WordPress. It is sort of the back end editor, the site editor. Themes are being really re-envisioned, repurposed. Plugins are having a really interesting I don't think plugins has been repurposed as much as the themes necessarily has, but I definitely think that there's a lot of growth there that's changing. Sure. Like, I'm not sure exactly what direction that's going in, but there's a lot of conversation there. And it just makes me wonder, like, what is WordPress? Is WordPress the block editor? Is WordPress it's the core software? Is WordPress the admin that you have? Because something that's being talked about for phase 3, which was reminded to me by a friend of the show, Courtney Robertson today. What does Gutenberg or the block editor look like in the dashboard? Like, what does that look like when that becomes the dashboard? Like, where does Gutenberg stop and WordPress begin? And how does that just what does that mean really for the software in general? Like, I think that it is something that is very existential. And can I invoke a Greek myth right now? Are we?
Please.
I've been talking too long to invoke a Greek myth. I don't know if I have leeway for that, but I'm going to take it. So, Oedipus, no, not Oedipus. Was it Oedipus? Odysseus, the guy who took the long trip, right? And was gone for like 14 years or 28 years or a really long time and dealt with all sorts of problems. There's this, he has a ship. I don't recall the name of the ship, but one of the kind of philosophical questions that arises out of this tale, this legend, is this ship has been sailing around the world for, not hundreds of years, but like, dozens of years. And they have replaced all the parts of the ship as they have been traveling. And is that ship the same ship that it was when it arrives back? Like, is it the same ship that it was when it left?
Is the ship still running on PHP or is it?
Has it upgraded to PHP 8 yet, or what?
I mean, we could ditch MySQL and just go with Maria or go with any other database. We could do that, but does it still run PHP?
The actual ship is in the note.
Is the whole of the ship still deeply in JavaScript? I don't know.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. So it's like, which part is it? Is it, I would argue, of course, that it's the community, it's the open source build that has made WordPress possible, right?
Yeah.
But, I don't see as much. There's a caveat. I don't usually see as much activity in Gutenberg and in the Gutenberg conversations, but Gutenberg is serving as it's like not the canary in the coal mine, because it's not like trying to see if it's dangerous, I suppose, but it's where all the features are being previewed, essentially.
Yeah.
Things are being built out in Gutenberg, the plugin, and then tested for implementation. There's even a conversation happening right now about delaying a Gutenberg, kicking well, it's not happening, but there was a conversation about kicking the beta date a week so that it would have time to get the latest updates from Gutenberg into 6.3, as opposed to having to wait until 6.4. And that really just struck a really interesting, an interesting thought process about Gutenberg really leading the way, and are we paying enough attention to it? Are we all just mad at it and we've renamed everything? Yeah.
That has me thinking a little bit about like something kind of that goes along the same lines as this, is that I don't know if you saw in the news recently, but Tesla recently opened up, or is going to be, I don't know how far into this there are, but open it up so that Ford and GM can start using the charging system that Tesla has made. And Tesla made their own charging system, and it's become like, it's not the standard, but they're trying to push it to be the standard. And I'm thinking in the terms of like WordPress with Gutenberg, is this their charging standard? It's the plug, the way that the plug works and how it all communicates and everything. If Gutenberg becomes that, does that mean at some point, is there interoperability between those two systems? Like, for instance, could you take posts that are in Gutenberg on WordPress and transfer them over to Gutenberg in Drupal and actually still have the post work? Could you copy and paste between them?
I want to know.
Could you migrate your site between one and the other?
Well, wait, so this is related to that. I want to know, is the little tag, is it WP paragraph or is it like DR paragraph?
Ooh.
I really want to know. Like, I don't know what that looks like. Did they change it?
Yeah.
Is it Drew paragraph? Is it like Droop paragraph? Like, what's their prefix?
It would absolutely shock me if there would be no interoperability if they're going to do something that will make Gutenberg a first-class citizen on Drupal. Maybe not the default post editor, but something that has wider adoption in Drupal. If they didn't have some sort of interoperability where you could effectively bring over a WordPress post, or vice versa, bring over a page or a node or whatever the hell is going on Drupal these days, and bring that over. But an interesting thing, and something that we kind of touched on in our group chat, before the show a couple weeks ago, that Tucker was alluding to, is like there are all of these other places that Gutenberg is creeping into.
It's creeping. I was gonna say creeping. It's creeping.
Yeah.
It's creeping.
Yeah. I mean, look at
it's like a pink slime mold.
A little bit.
Just the way that it's like kind of like just spreading. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's how it feels to me.
Absolutely.
I need to just real quick, while we have a quick lull, I need to make a correction because I feel very bad. More Than Words was not a Milli Vanilli song, and I totally thought extreme. It was. It was extreme, and that is an error on my part. I still think that Milli Vanilli is relevant in terms of metaphor, but I mixed up my 90s, 80s bands or whatever they are.
That's all right.
So I apologize. Anyway, you should go listen to all of those songs today. That's all. Go ahead.
Milli Vanilli is short for Millium Vanillium, and that's what I will leave it on.
Vanillium?
Yeah, Millium Vanillium. It's yeah. So what I was getting into though,
later.
what I was getting into though was that effectively Gutenberg is kind of creeping into these other projects, and a lot of them are automatic owned projects. You have Tumblr,
like Tumblr.
Yeah.
Tumblr.
Day One, which
yep.
Apple might be trying to Sherlock by
their journal app.
Wait,
you know,
what
by putting the journaling app in the new iOS, but Day One is still out there being cross-platform and everything else. But that has Gutenberg at its core. There are a few other projects. I haven't even dug
Simple
that
Note?
far back in our.
Simple
What's
Note
that?
might be one. Simple Note's an automatic project. Maybe
I feel like
yeah,
that
but
seems.
I use Simple Note, and I haven't had to put anything into a block in there.
I just realized an alternate title for this show could have been All Gutenberg Everywhere.
Yeah.
But there's also that one project that just came out not too long ago, which was
the block notes thing.
Yeah, the block notes thing.
That's what I was going to talk about. So that is
Right.
that could literally be it.
Yeah, that is a side project by an automatician, but it's a kind of side project. One of the main developers for Gutenberg, like so working really exclusively on Gutenberg, from what I know, developed a little side project that we can probably link to in the show notes. Yeah, I know Tucker,
absolutely.
you were using it. I didn't download it, but essentially it is a notes taking app. You did. It had some problems, but that's, it's beta. Essentially it's a note taking app based off of WP Playground. So it's like an instance of WP Playground that is called up every time you open. This is my understanding of it anyway. Every time you open the app, and then it connects to whatever you've got it connected to, and shows you your stuff. Or if you add content, will pop content into your, various installs. So it's basically like a fresh spin up based off of your settings. I know, Tucker, you were having problems with that.
It's like
actual
notes.
Connecting.
It's like notes. And having the database stored in iCloud, and then if you open up another device, It looks like iCloud, and that iCloud's the source of truth. So yeah,
but it was or it was not posting directly to your WordPress.
No, nothing to do with WordPress.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so that's it. So it is like Gutenberg by itself. It's like isolated Gutenberg, and there is really, in my mind, why wouldn't it be able to be platform agnostic and do those connect at the end to Drupal or Day One or WordPress or whatever it happens to be as an ultimate notes thing for all of those sites, like a content.
Like it makes. So when you make a post in it, what it does is it makes a file called whatever the title is .block, and then that contains the Gutenberg, comment system, methodology to kind of make all of that stuff get displayed. And so it stores it there. Now, I don't know, Cosper, if it's putting a database in there someplace. Maybe the database is hidden someplace in there what was the database that they were using? That's the local
SQLite.
Yeah, SQLite.
Which is on the track. I mean, that's WP Playground, right? Is SQ
right?
SQLite. I always want to say SQLite. Are there not two L's? So frustrating. Nope. Oh, SQLite is like PHP. Like, what are we doing? PPHP. I don't know. I just feel like that is, it's gone. It's all gone. Thoughts are gone. Just like a fresh install that erased all of your data.
All you've got is your hello word post, your about page, and your first comment, right?
Yeah, right. But I wasn't able to connect to my database. Sorry.
I will say that one thing that Courtney was talking to me about, just in comments and stuff, was hopefully something like this will kind of trigger a better understanding of how Gutenberg works on mobile. because if you've used Gutenberg
Oh
on
my
mobile,
gosh.
it's rough. And if you try to use site editor
Oh
in
my Lord.
mobile, it's like,
So this is, y'all, this is a big deal. Like, I feel like, oh, I get so frustrated. So a friend of the show, Courtney, who you also just mentioned, is doing a talk this weekend at WordCamp Montclair. Hope you don't mind me exposing the title of your talk, Courtney. It's called We Are They. And this is something that I really noticed at WordCamp Europe. Everyone's like, they got to do this. WordPress has got to do this. And I'm like, oh, Lord, people, can we understand, please? And just really just let it sink in that we are WordPress, and standing outside of the room and complaining is just silly. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, if you're out there and you have ideas and you're like, this is silly, we should be paying attention to what Gutenberg is, or I could fix that so it doesn't, blank out your whatever. Like, you don't have to do everything. Just come in and provide some sunshine. Like, literally, like the antidote to secrecy is always going to be more eyeballs and people. That's literally it. That's all there is. We need those people in there. We need people in these conversations. Like, this is a software that we all use and have as part of our livelihoods. So if we know there are problems, or we know there are areas that need help, like Gutenberg or like mobile, which is something that I talk about a lot in Make WP, which really needs help. We haven't even moved over the WordPress mobile app does not currently have documentation, because all of the documentation for the app was part of Jetpack's app, the mobile app, and it is on WordPress.com. There's an open ticket in docs to be like, hey, can you help us move this content? Like, literally, there's like 1 or 2 people who are working on moving it so that the WordPress mobile app has documentation somewhere. Like, this is not how we are going to get good adoption of the mobile app by ignoring it completely, or thinking that someone else is handling it. Yes, someone else is handling it. And you know who it is? The person you complain about all the freaking time.
Yeah, the mobile thing, the mobile thing that's interesting there is the fact that mobile people assume mobile means the latest and greatest mobile device, and they never ever think about places that don't have the latest and greatest mobile device. They could have the most cheapo in a plastic container.
I just saw a post about that.
Yeah, that was on Mastodon. Yeah,
I post about that. One of someone in WordPress has a temp phone, right?
Yeah.
They had a burner phone essentially between getting their new fancy phone, and they're like, wow, this experience is bunk. And that's not even using WordPress, right?
And now try to use JavaScript on there, where the whole dang thing runs on JavaScript. Like,
and
come on, that's not going to work.
For example, I can't speak to all countries, whatever, but I know, for example, in Kenya, literally the internet is like 80%. This is not a real statistic, but this is just anecdotal, but like, it's all mobile. It's all mobile. That is how people connect to the internet. And I don't know about the phones or whatever, but if the concern is WordPress adoption, and we all know that we're all carrying the computers in our pockets and we want WordPress, like, we all know we need to design websites for WordPress. Like, what are we doing? We got to stop leaving this up to other people.
Yeah. And I complain about it on social, and then people say, you actually use this stuff on your phone? Why would you do this on your phone? And I'm like, because I don't sit at a computer all day when I'm at home. When I'm at home, I'm at home. I'm not sitting at a computer like I am at work, because I actually go to a place and work where some people just like work from home. So it's a different situation for them. But for me, I don't want to sit in front of a computer. So I'm going to bust out my phone and I'm going to sit there and try to figure out how to sit
on your back patio.
Try to figure out how to get Gutenberg to work on my phone. And it's just not going to work. It's like, have you ever tried to move a block? Like, try to move a block.
I want to point this out. You are using a fancy phone. Like, this is a fancy dancy phone. This is not, and this is good, solid internet. Like, this should be your experience using Gutenberg or the block editor or whatever we're talking about on the phone that's top notch, because you update, like, you're cutting edge. I'm Luddite.
I want to update water cooler post. I want to update water cooler post. I just want to yell at Siri and say, okay, Siri, here's all the things I want you to do, and then have it do it. But I can't.
Right. So I think that is, I know I just went off on a contribution tangent again, but I do think that is really part of it's part of what's happening right now. And we need more people to be part of this conversation so that it's not being led by in a void.
I could potentially complain about it 5 hours a week, and I could do five for the future.
Yeah,
I could do 5 for the future. Just complaining about it.
Come complain in the make chat and like in the Gutenbergs. Like I do, before we end, I do want to talk about a very important discussion that is happening in Gutenberg right now. That is part of this. Like, I don't see a lot of activity happening in Gutenberg a lot, but right now there is. There's a huge discussion happening about a new component of the WordPress admin, which is currently called the command center, but or the admin notification. It's like this whole world, right? But eventually the thought is it could be an AI optimized area to help people do things. So you would be able to say, hey, build a block, put this block here, and it would, some might do that. There's
because I can't do it, I'm on mobile.
Yeah, there's a giant discussion happening about what to call that thing, and the with an eye to internationalization, can these terms be translated? There's a proposal on the table to call it the Wayfinder, which many people in the community are having issue with for a lot of reasons. Like, one is, what does that mean? And two is, does that translate at all, even to like the most like Eurocentric, Latin-based languages? And it does not. It basically does not translate in English. So I don't know why it would translate into any other language well. But there is a lot of conversation happening on that ticket, and this is a point where like the community needs to weigh in. Like, we need to weigh in, or things are going to get named and things are going to get slapped with labels that we're struggling with. Like, we are still struggling with the Gutenberg block editor, full site editor. I think it was Leslie may have posted this in the comments. Like, we're just naming things abstractly is just trouble down the line. And we definitely have a tendency to do that. And, this is one of those areas where like, you don't have to do any coding. You don't have to show up to a bunch of meetings. You don't have to like do anything but say, hey, here's my opinion about what we should name this component of the software that I use every day and what I'm going to be explaining to my clients to use in 2 years. Like, chime in.
Friend of the show, hosts, he said, I don't know what the big deal is with calling it Wayfinder. Hosts speak Spanish. I can't find anything wrong with translating Wayfinder to El Encuentra Caminos. Like,
I don't even know what that means, but it just sounds confusing.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Put it into
Google Translate. Put it into Google Translate, and it's a bunch of damn gibberish.
Command palette. Just call it command palette, and we'll be good. That's all I'm thinking.
Like, so there's so much, and like I said, we're talking about in the phase 3 of Gutenberg. We're talking about collaborative editing. We're looking at the redesign of the admin. This is like structural stuff, renaming things, and the whole, like, we have like put Gutenberg behind us in theory because it is now the block editor, or it's whatever, it doesn't matter, but it does. It still exists. It is its own repo. It is its own plugin. It has its own development cycle, and it is leading the charge of where WordPress is going. So if that is something, like, once it's in there and functional, it is coming into WordPress. This is not, it's not coming into WordPress. You know what I mean? Like, this is the point at which the say is important. That's funny. This is important. The point where the weighing in, the community opinion, the real information, the real contribution can happen and is important. And we ignore Gutenberg at our peril. That's all I'm saying, is like, it's showing the way, and we need to be part of that conversation, even if not just to assure ourselves that things are going well, or that we know what's coming down the pike, right? Like, it's not even always about stopping bad things from happening. It's about just understanding where we're all going and stopping the thought process of this is someone else doing this, and they are doing this.
Yeah.
I'm going to promote Courtney's thing again and say, we are they. And she's going to be talking about that this weekend. And hopefully we'll get that up onto WordPress TV or something so we can, get that out. But
just let me know when we figure out who them are. As long as we figure out who them are at some point, then we should be okay.
We are they. We are them. It is us. We are the ones. We are the world. We are the children.
Wait, here we go.
That by Milli Vanilli?
We're going back to the 90s again.
Just kidding.
We are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's a great note to end on. Everyone has YouTube or music streaming assignments today.
I know, man. They're gonna have to load up Real Player or some crap to watch.
Milli Vanilli, and We Are the World. There's your playlist for today. Enjoy.
Here's our outro. You can hear
Spotify, YouTube. You're here. I'm here. Also on TLI Vids. So come and chat with us in Discord because we want to hear what you have to say. Oh yeah.